What's going on, YouTube? What's going on, Twisted Vapors? How are we all doing today? James the Vaping Trucker here, coming at you with another review. A little bit older device today. We've got the Hammer of God. This is the V2 1-to-1 clone. This is on loan to me from Chris over at the Rebel Vapor Lounge. Put a link down below for him. This is just a quick little overview and a couple of things to watch on here. In that it is a mechanical device. It's got an on-off switch done with a button. That's it. You know, got a voltmeter on it. That's it. 4 18650 batteries, unregulated, Paraseries box, and that 2 batteries on one side, 2 going on the other. Just a big box. 7.5 volts out of 4 batteries. So you're not even getting the full battery power that they're capable of. Got the Mason 40mm sitting on it. Got a .35 ohm build in it. But yeah, it's just a quick overlook of this. A little bit of advice on them, a couple things to watch for. So yeah, on that, why don't we go down? Climb out of our trucks. Get up close, take a quick look at this. Quick look at a couple of concerns that I have on it. A couple of easy fixes, so to say. And we'll come back up. We'll vape on it. We'll talk on it. Give me my thoughts and opinions on it. See you down below. Here's the star, the Hammer of God. Now, like I said, this one is a clone. See, S is nicely messed up there. It's not how Vapor Clouds normally does their S. Otherwise, the packaging is pretty close to the same style logo. Nothing on the bottom. You know, typical Vapor Clone, or Vapor's Cloud clone deal. You know, very, very plain packaging. Open it up, a little protective cloth. And then you got Hammer of God there, and that's it. That was it. So, we'll go through this. Got their logo here on this side. Decent magnets to hold everything on there. It doesn't rattle or anything else like that. And that holds real nice. But you got 2 magnets on top, 2 down here on the bottom. Still a little dirty, sorry about that. The engraving. Kind of etched in a little bit, not very, very deep. And that, but still not too bad a job. Here's what those internals here look like. You know, you got your positive up, negative down, clearly marked. These connections down here, when you put the batteries in, you'll see down here on the bottom, put the screwdriver in there and rotate it up. That's how you hold the batteries in. And I'll show you that here in a moment. And that, but that just kind of sits on there. Delrin switch. Makes a little bit of noise, but does not click. But it does move. This switch, if you rotate it quarter turn, does lock basically. I mean, it moves a little bit, but it's not enough. It won't fire, as you can tell. Rotate it back, and then it goes. There you go. So, it does have that kind of an on-off feature. This side here, same thing. Same magnets on here. Negative up here, positive down here. Okay, so pretty self-explanatory right there. Now, one thing you guys do got to watch with these. Let me grab my screwdriver here and take the insides of this here apart. You got one little Phillips screw right there next to the magnet. Okay, it's a small screw. So, I'll take that screw out. Magnet will hold it if you want it to, but I'm going to take that screw out, set it on the side, take that little plate off. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side here. Phillips head screw right there, right by the magnet. Excuse me. Right by the magnet. I don't know what happened to my voice there, but that was odd. Go ahead and take this screw out. Up there so we don't lose it, and take that plate off. And let's see here. Okay, as you can see inside, the internals aren't too awful bad. They are fairly clean. I mean, I've definitely seen better jobs, but they're not too awful bad. The 510 here has held pretty good, and that, amazingly, it's actually held pretty good. This switch, on the other hand, though, if you watch the switch, okay, there's your connection. Push it in, and it connects to the 510. Okay, so you got no MOSFET protection, nothing in there. What you do have to watch is this right here, okay? With rotating this back and forth, you can kind of see. Okay, right now, it's not moving. Okay? But every so often, I don't know, it's doing it right now a little bit, and there it stops. That does rotate. Okay? So when you turn it on, you use it. You're not using it, you turn it off, take your batteries out, and that. But just the motion of going back and forth, this little piece right here, every so often, will spin. So you got to check every so often, and this is a real pain to do. Okay, you got to kind of push it in a little bit and reach in there with something. It's real small, you can't really get a finger in there. A screwdriver will work as long as you're careful with it, but that way you can kind of spin it back so it'll stay tight. Okay, and this, you can tell from this side, you got your ground wire here, so you can't really get this side, but you got to watch that and that, because that piece will spin, and if it spins off too far, I have found on here that there's roughly, I'd say, about a half a thread to a quarter thread right at the end, that this will wedge itself between the screw of the Delrin firing pin and this, causing this to auto fire. Okay, so you do have to check that every so often. Now this Delrin is spring loaded. There is a spring in here, and that, so when it hits that point, it's supposed to just shoot everything out, and I guess this is just supposed to drop. That way there's no connection. But I couldn't get it to work. It just didn't function that way. So that's the best I can tell you, is just keep an eye on this every so often. You know, take this apart, just a Phillips screw in here, and that, and just double check. Just make sure that that is still staying where it needs to be. And that's how you can also adjust. I mean, if you've been vaping long enough, obviously, to get one of these, you know, you can adjust this down to get yourself a shorter throw or a long throw, depending which way you want to go with it. But just keep an eye on that, because like I said, there's not really any way to get it to stay right where you want it. And if you're turning it on and off, and that, you can see, like right now, it was spinning and then it stopped, you know. So just something you got to watch for in there. Just keep an eye on it. Not really that major of a deal. 510 on here, though. It's a silver plated 510 on this one. Is a pain. Okay, it is adjustable. It's not spring loaded. This one is adjustable, and you've got to watch. You will have to play with this quite a bit, depending on what addy you're using, because it will go way down into there, and I mean, it's way in there. Okay, so if it doesn't fire when you push your addy on there, you know, you're gonna have to kind of play with it a little bit, and that, get it to come back up. Okay, otherwise it's not too awful bad. Go ahead and put her back together. And as you can see here, these screws are real small, and that, so you don't want to lose them. Might be hard to find, but the inside screws are machined surprisingly halfway decent. You know, they hold pretty well. I've had very few issues with them, other than my grubby old fingers sometimes have a hard problem getting a hold of them. So put that back in there. Make sure both sides are on there. And we get to put the batteries in. Let me grab me some batteries here. Using the LG HE4s. The yellow wraps on here. So you got positive down, negative up. As you can see, they do move. Okay. But all you do is, you got the little flatheads right down here. Put your screwdriver in there. Snug it up. You don't want to crank them tight, because if you crank them too tight, if you crank down on them too tight, and that you can puncture right down into this. And you don't really want to do that with this. Okay, so you just want to get them snugged. Okay, so they're not tight, they're snug, but they don't move. Put that on. This is a Paraseries box. So this side here is positive up. Let me drop this back down. Positive side up. And then snug this up. And there you go. Snugged up. Cover back on there. No battery rattle. Voltmeter. Oop, turn it on. You do have a voltmeter, which is readable. You know, 7.48, 7.5 volts. It's about all you get with 4 batteries. 7.5 volts. Okay. And we'll hold it here for a second. Or for a few seconds, actually. So we can kind of see it's registering what the batteries are showing. But it will keep on. If I had an Addy on here, it would keep on firing. It would not shut off or stop firing or anything like that. It'd keep on firing. And that. So, but yeah, there you go. Not really much to it. You know, it looks complex. It is not small by any means. But still, it's not too bad of a device. I mean, it's not something you're going to want to walk around with using every day, because it is a heavy, heavy device. And it is a little bit finicky, and that with making sure you get the batteries lined in there just right, you get them snugged. Dealing with this 510 here. If I put the cover on right. You know, dealing with that 510, and as you can see, you know, it does wobble a little bit in there. It's been pretty secure once I put an Addy on there, but you got to watch with that, because it will come out pretty easy. But otherwise, it's not too bad. The finish is pretty decent. Some kind of, not quite a powder coat, but almost like a powder coat finish. So they didn't do too bad of a job with it. And that, like I said, the logo's kind of engraved, but it's not very, very deep. Switch is sloppy. And that when you mess with it, the switch does move. You got your in and out. It will wobble back and forth, up and down, and all that. You know, that is a pretty strong spring that they do have in there. You know, so it does take quite a bit to push it down. But on that note, that's about all I got for the show, for the up close here. So we'll go back top, vape on it, talk about it a little bit. Give you my insights. See you guys up top. So there you have it. That's the Hammer of God version 2 clone. Not something I would really seek out myself, okay? It is big, it's bulky, it's heavy. You're running 4 18650 batteries, but you're only getting 7.5 volts. Paint job on this one is held up pretty good. A couple of scratches in it. Nothing really noticeable or anything like that. Does hit like a truck, but you know, for as big as it is and using 4 batteries and only 7.5 volts, is it really worth it? Ooh, good and dry. I don't know. It's a lot of effort in it, a lot to watch. You got to keep an eye on the switch, keep an eye on the button. The 510 on here is just a real wow, that 510 is just a pain in the butt. It is a pain to deal with, not fun. Um, I mean, you really got to work at it. You got to mess around with it to get it just right. Um, they don't recommend below a .4 ohm build. I'm running a .38 or .35 on here at the moment. It is firing it, but they don't recommend below a .4. I like a .2, .25 build normally. So yeah, something like this, not really my taste. Especially, .4 ohm, .5 ohm build, it's not bad. Excuse me. It's just not my normal vape. I like .2, .25, somewhere in there. And that's what I'm happy with. Salute to you, mates. I mean, something like that, you get a Phantom, pretty much does the same thing. And granted, you don't get 7.5 volts, but you're still pushing close to 6 volts. But it's a little bit easier to handle. This thing is it's big and bulky. You know, if you're going to get one of these, enjoy it. They are enjoyable. I did use this at home. Like I said, it's not mine. I borrowed it from Chris over at Rebel Vapor Lounge just to try to get me some more stuff to review. Um, I have used it at home. I do use it here in the truck when I'm not driving. When I'm driving, it's just too big. Uh, I got a Mason 40 mil on here right now. I've had my Buddha 30 millimeter on here. And those are RDAs. They take a lot of juice. They use a lot of juice. They're massive. Um, Driving down the road, too much work. Sitting at home or something like that, sure, why not? Cloud Cop, they're probably not going to allow something like this. Some of them might, most of them probably not. Um, this is more for something like a hobbyist or a collector. Just one of those deals to say, hey, look, yeah, I got my hands on one. I've got one. I can use it. Yeah, it does work. It does put out. You know, but this is just more so one of those deals of a clowning around vape, I guess you'd call it. Something more along the lines of a collector, a hobbyist, or something like that. But if you're interested, like I said, this is the version 2 clone. I'll put links down below. The authentics are still a bit pricey. Clones obviously are a little bit cheaper. I'll put a link down below for Rebel Vapor Shop over to Chris there, which is who this is on loan from. But yeah, I mean, other than having to keep an eye on the switch and the internals and the 510, I mean, if you want something that's mechanical, as long as you don't bind a .4 ohm build, maybe a little bit higher, or just something you can have on a shelf, just saying, look, I got one. I'll put some links down below. If it's your thing, it's your thing. For me, just not really my thing. But I'll put the links below. All I can do is give you my thoughts and opinions. On that note, we'll catch y'all next time. Stay safe out there. Keep the shiny side up and the greasy side down. Catch you down the road somewhere. Until next time, stay twisted.